And with that, welcome to the next episode of podcast that all of you out there are waiting to hear, Pack Sports Zone. I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, aka the Sports God. And it's football time. It's football day every day. It seems like every day, but it's football day today. As we will kick off the NFL season with the Los Angeles Rams and the Buffalo Bills. And that'll be on in a couple hours. It's around 5 o'clock my time on the East Coast right now. So that game will be starting in about 3 hours. Couple of things to get into. I want to be going over every single game this week, making my pick straight up and with the spread. And then the last couple minutes, I'm going to be going over a little bit of wrestling stuff, as it was a big week with suspensions and people going off and a bunch of backstage stuff that some fans don't really care about, but some fans care a lot about. So with that said, let's get right into the NFL picks. And we started off with the game that's going on tonight, as the Buffalo Bills once again will be going to Los Angeles to go off against the Los Angeles Rams. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are a 2.5-point favorite. I think the Bills are going to win the game. Anytime the point spread is less than 3, I'm just going to pick the team that I think that's going to win. So I'm going to give the points, give the 2.5, take the Bills, and I think the Bills will win this game straight up. Moving on to the Sunday games, as we have a long list of games to go through, and we will start off with the Baltimore Ravens and the New York Jets. Baltimore Ravens are a 7-point favorite. Jets, I think, are going to be better than most teams think. So if the full team was there, if Zach Wilson was the starter and he looked a little bit better, I would go with them, but he's going to be out. You're going to see Joe Flacco. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, to be honest, but I think I'm going to hesitantly give the points, take the Baltimore Ravens -7, and I think it could be a 7-point win, so I think it won't even matter. But I'll go with the Ravens to win the game straight up, and I'll go with the Ravens with the 7 points, to give them 7 points away to the Jets. Moving on to the next game, the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Listen, Colts have lost 8 straight games for their opening week 1. Listen, they're trying to give them one. I know they still lost last year. I think it was to Jacksonville that they possibly lost to last year, or 2 years ago, one of the two. But they're going against the Houston Texans. Texans have a better team than they did previously. I'm going to pick the Colts to win the game and snap that 8-game streak, but I'm going to pick the Texans to cover the 7 points. So I'm going to take the 7 points with the Houston Texans at home in their opener against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, keep in mind, and I say this every single year, and nobody seems to listen, but week 1, there are a lot of big surprises in week 1. We always see teams that lose that end up going to the Super Bowl. We see teams that win, and then they end up winning maybe one game for the rest of the year, as we saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of years ago. You don't put too much stock in week 1. You just pretty much look at the teams, say, all right, I think this team's going to win, and go with it. You don't put too much stock into it, because you're reading into teams that have changed maybe 20 players from the previous year. They're a completely different team. You don't know how they're going to act. You don't know how they're a fresh team. So most teams are even when they're all fresh and no injuries. So it's completely different when you're picking from the start of the year. So I think week 1, you go right out there and just pick the best team. So with that said, let's move on to the next game. San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. I don't think the Bears are going to be that good this year. I do think they will eventually get better as the year goes along. They're going to go as far as Justin Fields gives them. But this is going to be the game of 2 quarterbacks that are both finally starting, in Trey Lance for the San Francisco 49ers and Justin Fields, who started last year but didn't really have any help. They're trying to help him out a little bit, not too much. I don't think it was enough. I think the San Francisco 49ers will go into Chicago and win by 2 touchdowns. So I'm giving the points, 7 points, and taking the San Francisco 49ers. And obviously that means I got them winning. Moving on to the next game, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions. Now, a lot of people are picking the Detroit Lions, and I can understand it, because they have a lot of pieces now. Amon-Ra St. Brown has proven as a good wide receiver last year. They bring in DJ Chark. They got DeAndre Swift back there, and he seems to be healthy at running back. You got Jamal Williams there. You got TJ Hawkinson there. It just matters if Jared Goff can play well, and he was playing solid at the end of the year. So I completely understand you going with the Detroit Lions, but I think this is going to be a big year for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win the division, and they may lose week 1 and still win the division, but it wouldn't be a good way to start off with an 0-1 start, even though Cowboys are facing a tough opponent too in Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game by 4. With the 4 points, I'm going to I'll actually give the points. I'm going to take the points with Detroit, but I'm going to pick Philadelphia to win the game. So this is one of those games that I would leave alone because I think it can go either way. I think it'll be a close game. I think Detroit has a legitimate chance to win, but I just think Philadelphia will win close by about 3 points. So I'm going to take the points as the Detroit Lions at the 4 points, but I'm going to pick the Eagles to win. Moving on to the other Pennsylvania team, as the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cincinnati to place the Cincinnati Bengals, the defending AFC champions. The Pittsburgh Steelers are getting 6.5 points. I don't trust a quarterback like Trubisky with an offensive line like that in the road week 1 when the Bengals have been disrespected the whole offseason, even though they got better at their biggest weakness, offensive line. I think Joe Burrow is going to come out shooting. I think he's going to come out and throw 2 to 3 touchdowns. And I think Cincinnati wins this game by a touchdown, probably 7 to 10 points. So I'm going to say the Bengals not only obviously win the game, but they win the game and cover the 6.5 points. Cleveland Browns at the Carolina Panthers. The Baker Mayfield Bowl, as Baker, obviously the rumor came out, said he was going to pretty much beat up on his old team, and then he said it was a rumor and it's not true. The game is now pick'em, surprisingly. Listen, the Browns are a way better team. The Panthers are a solid team. They're hoping Baker actually plays like the guy that the Browns thought he was going to be when they drafted him number 1 overall. I don't know if that's going to happen week 1. So with that said, I think the Browns will win the game. I think the Browns are a better team. I think Jacoby Brissett will play better than most people think he will. He's a solid quarterback. He's one of the best backups in the league. And I think with their running game, I think it fits him perfectly because that's what Cleveland Browns love to run the ball. So Brissett is just going to have to throw it when he has to throw it. They're not going to game plan for him to throw it 50 times or 40 times. They're going to try to keep him in the 25 pass range, run the ball down the Carolina Panthers' throat. And with you making it a straight-up pick-em, I'm definitely going with the Browns. Next game, the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Saints are getting 5.5. I think the Falcons are a bad team this year. I love Mariota. Bless his heart. He's a very good person. He's a solid quarterback. But I just don't think that the Atlanta Falcons are ready for week 1 at home. They just don't have enough players. They don't have enough firepower. And I think the Saints, Jameis Winston, before he got hurt, he had, 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He was playing well. He looked like he learned a lot playing that year behind Drew Brees. And I think he's going to continue that and play well again this year. Hopefully we don't see the old Jameis and throw 3 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. But if he can keep the interceptions down, we'll see the Saints roll in this one, probably by at least 14, 17 points. It could get ugly. So Saints win it, give away the 5.5 points. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders. Jaguars seem to play good 2 times a year, when they play in London and week 1. The Commanders, they're getting 2.5. They're giving 2.5 points. They're at home. I think after looking at it, I'll tell you this: Carson Wentz. He's a better fantasy quarterback than real quarterback, because a fantasy quarterback, he's actually not that bad. He had 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year, and that isn't that bad. So I have to say he wasn't terrible last year, but in terms of when it came up to big moments, he just destroyed himself and killed himself under pressure. So with that said, I'm going to have to go with the Commanders because I think they'll do enough to win. I think Antonio Gibson is going to have a big year. Terry McLaurin has already proven that it doesn't matter who his quarterback is. He's going to catch passes and he's going to do well. I think that will be enough to get by the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think are still one big-time wide receiver away from really showing who they are. They're starting to upgrade their team. They're solid at most positions right now. They have the young tight end Evan Ingram. They have Christian Kirk on the outside. They got Marvin Jones on the outside. Obviously, you got Travis Etienne in the backfield. But they need that. They need that Jamar Chase. They need that Justin Jefferson. They need that one big-time wide receiver that can blow the top off the defense. If they get that, then you start watching out for the Jaguars. Until they get that, I'm going to go against them, go with the Washington Commanders, and I will give away the 2.5 points. New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins, a division rivalry that's always close no matter what. They made the spread Miami minus 3.5. I do think Miami will win this game straight up. When it comes to the 3.5, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the points at New England. So I'm gonna throw away the points, give the points to New England, and take Miami to win by more than 3.5. I'm very cautious to bet on this game, just because it's all about Tua. It's all about Tua Tagovailoa, just making sure that he's comfortable enough with his offense that he can get the ball to where his speedsters can use their speed. He was able to do it at Alabama, but this isn't college anymore. So we got to see if he can do it now that he has weapons on the outside. He didn't have that many weapons previously. He had Devontae Parker. That was pretty much it, who's always hurt. Now he's got, and Jalen Waddle was a rookie last year, started to play well, but now you got two top-tier wide receivers to go with Mike Gesicki underneath. And you can also toss it to Edmonds in the backfield. So Miami's going to have to prove that this team is legit. It looks pretty good on paper. Now it's time to do it on the field. So I'm going to actually give the 3.5 points and take Miami. New York Giants and the Tennessee Titans. I think the Titans are going to come out rolling this one. Giants look like they may be without their top two pass rushers, the two rookies from the past 2 years. And listen, if you can't get pressure on the Titans, that's a killer, because you already got to do a lot of work to stop Derrick Henry. So if you can't get to the quarterback and you're going to have trouble stopping Derrick Henry, it puts you in a real bad shape to stop them. And even though Ryan Tannehill has a lot of new weapons out there, I think they're going to keep it on the ground, pound the ball, and run the ball over the New York Giants. So I got the Tennessee Titans. Moving on to the next game, the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, the Vikings are a 1.5 point underdog at home. And this is a weird one because, one, is a division game. Two, I think Minnesota will actually challenge Green Bay in terms of winning this division. And three, Minnesota's at home. I think this is going to be a very close game. I'm actually going to pick the Green Bay Packers to win the game, but I would not be surprised at all if Minnesota won this game. I think that this is a legitimate 1 point type game. It's very hard to pick. I would stay away from it, but I'm going to say, as my official pick, I'm going to say the Green Bay Packers win, and I'm going to say listen, like I said, if it's under 3 points, you almost have to pick the team that you think is going to win. So I'm going to give the 1.5 points, and I'm going to pick the Green Bay Packers. Moving on to the next 4 o'clock game, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are a 3.5 point favorite. I have a lot of high hopes for the Chargers this year. I think they're a team that is going to get to the AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills or the Cincinnati Bengals. I think those 3 teams are a notch above everybody else. So I got to say that I think that Chargers are not going to come out with an opening week loss. The only thing you always have to worry about with the Chargers is that their coach goes for it every single 4th down, and that can cost you. If it might not cost you a game, it might cost you a spread. And because of that, I will take the Raiders plus 3.5. So I think the Chargers will win the game, but I'm going to take the Raiders plus 3.5. Moving on to the next game, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals. The Chiefs are a 6 point favorite, and this will be my upset of the week, as I think the Arizona Cardinals will win this game straight up. So I will obviously take the 6 points, but I think the Arizona Cardinals at home will beat the Chiefs in week 1 in Glendale, Arizona, and start off 1-0 and put Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs at 1-1. Just a little side note to this game, the over-under is 54. I think the over is going to be over 60. I think both teams are going to score a lot of points. Obviously, you know that Andy Reid and the Chiefs score a lot of points. They have a lot of weapons, and they have Patrick Mahomes. Arizona, even without DeAndre Hopkins there, you have Kyler Murray, who's trying to prove for that contract. He's just got his new deal. And you got Hollywood Brown, you got Rondell Moore, you got A.J. Brown, you have obviously, in the backfield, you have James Conner, you got Zach Ertz at tight end. They've gotten a solid offensive line. They're going to be an explosive offense this year. And then when DeAndre Hopkins comes back in week 7, they watch out for them. But even without him, I think they're going to be explosive offense. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball enough with Connor that is going to slow the Chiefs down a little bit. Meaning I don't think they'll score 40 points. But I think this will be like a 35 or I would even say a 34 to 30 type game. I think it's legitimately going to go over 60 points. So I would also consider betting that. And I think my upset, the Arizona Cardinals will win this game straight up. Now, moving to the Sunday night game, as that song is actually playing right now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys, minus 2.5 against the Dallas Cowboys plus 2.5. This game can also go either way. They played, I think it was last year, if not 2 years ago, to open up the season. Very close game. Came down to the last 2 minutes of the game. I think that the Cowboys are slightly below them right now. And I think without Michael Gallup in the lineup for the first couple weeks, I think it's going to slow down their offense a little bit. Tampa Bay is dealing with their own issues with 1 or 2 offensive linemen hurt. They obviously lost Kappa. They lost their center. Then the replacement center got hurt. So they're going through a little issues too. And the last thing you want is Tom Brady taking hits, because anytime he takes any type of pressure up the middle, he turns into the normal quarterback like every other person. So to start off the season, I'm going to say I think Tampa Bay wins the game. So I think they will cover the spread. I will give the 2.5 points. But this is another one of those games. It can go either way. I don't blame you for betting the Cowboys straight up. Every game that I say is a coin flip game, I don't mind you for betting the underdog straight up, because all these games are that close. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay, but if you want to take the Dallas Cowboys straight up, I would not be against it. Then Monday night, Denver Broncos at Seattle Seahawks. The return of Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson Bowl, as he goes back to where he spent his entire career. And he will come in as a 6.5 point favorite into the 12th man in Seattle. I think Russell's going to try to prove a point. Obviously, this is his first game, so he wants to come out firing. Seattle has Geno Smith as their quarterback, and I have absolutely zero confidence in him. I think at most he may be able to put up a touchdown, and maybe they get a rushing touchdown, so maybe 14 for them. But I do think the Broncos will be able to put up a good amount. Not a crazy amount, but I do think that between the two teams, they should get around 35, 40 points. And like I said, I don't see any way that Seattle gets more than 10, 14 of them. So I got Denver winning that game. I got them covering that spread of 6.5, so you can push that off to Seattle. And with that said, that covers all my picks for week 1. Obviously, I will be giving you my picks for week 2 next week. But hopefully you can get your bets in, especially for the game that's later on tonight. That should be starting in approximately 3 hours with the LA Rams and the Buffalo Bills. Any other football news? I'll break to you during the week, or I'll break for you next week. But that's it for the football portion of the show. Now, quickly, just to move on to other sports, and let's start off with wrestling, because wrestling was a little bit of a weird week this week, as we actually saw the CM Punk after their big pay-per-view on last week, which was first of all, I mentioned all the pay-per-views last week, and all of them were good. And even though AEW was probably the worst out of the 3, I still think that all of them were good. WWE Clash of the Castle was the best, in my opinion. NXT was also very good. It was an unbelievable match between Ricochet and the A-champion Carmelo Hayes. And that match stole the night for me. That was a great match on Sunday. It was a good overall weekend if you were a wrestling fan. But after the pay-per-view, CM Punk kind of went off at the mouth, went off on Hangman Page, went off on the Elite, which is pretty much the Jackson brothers, a.k.a. the Young Guns. Also, they had Kenny Omega. Then there was a rumor that they went to his hotel room after he went off, and there was an altercation. Pretty much, long story short, on Wednesday when Dynamite started, we found out that The Trios Championship has been stripped from Omega and the Young Bucks. And the Heavyweight Championship has been stripped from CM Punk because they will all be suspended. I do not know how long they will be suspended, but they are all suspended. They will have a tournament to decide their heavyweight champion. And they did decide and crown a new Trios champion because they had a match that same night. And the winners are the Bastard Pack and the Lucha Brothers, Penta and Rey Fenix. So, lots of crazy stuff going on in AEW. Who knows what's going to happen? But the point is that they put on good wrestling matches. There was an unbelievable match for the ROH Championship last night, which Danny Garcia was able to win the championship in his hometown of Buffalo as he defeated Wheeler Yuta. And it was a really good match, one of the best matches. And the funny thing is that with all those guys getting suspended, they had one of their best nights of matches. So it almost goes to show you is that sometimes these wrestling organizations, they put so much into one or two guys that you don't really get to see the depth and how good some of these other wrestlers are. So hopefully the suspension will open up a couple doors for the other people. One other side note, it appears that Aleister Black, aka Malachi, is now no longer with AEW. Not really sure if it's because of injuries or because he just maybe wants to go back to WWE, but it's being said it is a conditional release, so who knows how long he will be out before we will see Malachi Black again. So with that said, it was a really good week of wrestling. We got football coming up. It's a lot of stuff to talk about, but one thing before I go off the air that I do want to mention is just approximately 2-3 hours ago, before I went on the air, the news did break that Queen Elizabeth had passed away. She had been somebody that my mom had admired, as my family is from Barbados, and they were ruled under the British power up until this past year. And it's one of those things that you talk about the family in Barbados, that's why you were raised. With that said, a lot of people don't like her, but she had ruled for 70 years. She was 96 years old. And sometimes you have to do things for the good of the family that other people might not like. So with that said, we go off the air as we say rest in peace to Queen Elizabeth and send the condolences to her family, especially William and Harry, who have lost a mother. As somebody who has also done the same recently, I can understand their pain. So with that, I will talk to you guys next week. I'm Peter Pac-Man Clark, aka the Sports God. Enjoy week 1 of football, and I will be speaking to you guys next week. Peace out.